All right, today, welcome to 4.2 Day 1. We are going to look at experimental studies. All right, so let's go ahead and look at this vocab. So an observational study observes individuals and measures variables of interest, but does not attempt to influence the response. All right, so on this one, picture yourself just watching something and maybe making tally marks, but you're not at all interacting with the observation. An experiment deliberately imposes special visitor today, deliberately imposes some treatment on individuals. Yikes, sorry about that. To measure their responses. So what you need to remember is that a treatment is applied, right? So big fancy definition here from the book, but really what this means is that a treatment is applied. So in this case, you are interacting with the individuals in the study, and kind of like think of science where you have a control and then you have a group where you apply the treatment to. All right, so some more fun words. This is a lurking variable. So a lurking variable is one that is not among. So basically it's a variable that's not among the explanatory. So the explanatory variables are the x's or response variable. And the response variables are the y-axis. In a study, so a variable that's not among the explanatory or response variable in a study, but that may influence the response variable. So basically it's not the explanatory, like where you have the variable that you're looking at versus like what happens, kind of like the output. So think of explanatory as the input and response as the output. Well, then you have another variable that affected the output. So it really had nothing to do with the explanatory. It was because of a third variable maybe that was affecting the response that had nothing to do at all with the explanatory. So a confounding variable is basically the action that occurs based on the lurking variable. So they're very similar, but think of a confounding variable as kind of the result. Like a lurking variable is there, and then a confounding variable actually puts all that into place. So this occurs when two variables are associated in such a way that their effects on a response variable cannot be distinguished from each other. All All right, last page of vocab. So a treatment is a specific condition applied to the individuals in an experiment. The experimental units are the smallest collection of individuals to which treatments are applied. A subject is basically when the individuals are human. So when the units, the experimental units, are human beings, then we say subjects instead of individuals or experimental units. So factors, this is just another name for the explanatory variable. Occasionally you'll hear that word, so you'll want to be familiar with it. And then a level is a specific value formed by each treatment. Alright, so let's look at number 15, part A. So it's the one where it says a study of child care enrolled 364 infants and followed them through their six year in school. So go ahead and read that. Stop the video if you need to. And then the first question is this an observational study or an experiment? So all you're looking for is to see if a treatment was applied. So because a treatment was not applied, that makes it an observational study. These will be test questions, so you want to make sure that you understand this. So the reason is no treatment is applied, and then remember how we talked about you have to have context. So is applied to the children. So this problem is about children, so we need to add that context in there. Do not just say no treatment applied and be done. So no treatment applied and then the context. Part B says, what are the explanatory and response variables? So the explanatory variable, think of it as the input variable, right? The X variable if you were going to make, if you were going to like graph the points. So an explanatory variable is the amount of time in childcare from birth to 4.5 years old. Okay, and then C is does this, oh sorry, I forgot to do the response variable. The response variable is the output. So for each basically amount of time in childcare, what happens? So here, the adults rating, should be adult rating of their behavior. And that's what the outcome is, right? Or the output, right? And then part C is, does the study show that childcare causes children to be less aggressive? So we cannot answer that question because we can't make a conclusion of cause and effect since this is an observational study. There's no control group to be able to make any type of conclusion like that. So whenever it asks about can this show something or is there a cause and effect, if it's an observational study, the answer is always no. So no, and then we're going to write that down. We cannot, oops, sorry, make a conclusion. I don't know how I slid the screen over. Make a conclusion of cause and effect since This is an observational study. You can only do cause and effect in an experimental. I'll have to write that down. So in an observational study. So there is no control group. Another problem here is if you read this problem, you can see that there could possibly be a lurking variable. And that's just the differences in how the adults would rate the children's behavior, right? Some adults are more patient than others, and so that may affect how the ratings were. So that's another thought to think of on part C. All right, so now let's look at number 16. So this is one where it says an educator wants to compare the effectiveness of computer software. And go ahead and finish reading that. Again, please pause the video so you can make sure that you understand. And A says, is this an observational study or experiment? So remember, what you're looking for is to see if a treatment is applied. So this is an experiment. Remember, we cannot just say that a treatment is applied. We have to tie in the context. So I'm going to write down a treatment is applied. That's the reason that it's an experiment. And now we need to do the context. Students were randomly assigned to different teaching methods. You could also say students were assigned to the computer and the other ones to the text or something like that. All right, part B. If the group using the computer has a much higher average increase in test scores than the group using the textbook, what conclusions, if any, can the educator draw? So first, we can draw conclusions because this is an experiment. And then second, what are those conclusions? So the teacher or educator, depending upon what word you want to use there, the teacher can conclude that using the computer software appears to result in larger increases in test scores. All right, so number 17. So now we're on the one that says a common definition of binge drinking is 5 or more drinks. Remember that this is a college textbook, so sometimes it has a little bit of crazy questions in here. So identify a lurking variable that may be confounded with the effects of binge drinking. Explain how confounding might occur. So the first thing we have to talk about is identifying a lurking variable. So there's two questions to this problem. So the lurking variable could be the level of academic motivation. There could be other answers as well. This is just one correct answer, but there could be other correct answers in that problem. So basically, those who drink may have less motivation, leading to lower grades. So it could have nothing to do with the binge drinking. They might just not be as motivated as another student. And then a confounding variable based on that lurking variable could be if students do not do well. We are not sure if it's because of the alcohol or the lower motivation, lower level of motivation. So this is saying like the lurking variable has you know, been measured, or the effects of the lurking variable have been measured, and you're not sure, you have these results, but you don't know if the results are based on the binge drinking, or if it's based on the lurking variable, the lower level of motivation. All right, and number 18, I want you to try this one on your own. So it's got the 3 parts to it. It starts for the experiment described below, identify the experimental units or subjects, and then go from there. The VoIP question, the American Adolescents, and then it's got the student project measure, the increase. So try that on your own. We will go over this tomorrow in class. This is basically just a check for understanding, and it's completion points. So all I want you to do is do your best. You know, there's no worry really about right and wrong. I just want you to see how much you know, so that I can understand and know how much you know. All right? And now you're done. You're a winner.